Shalom. I want to start by saying all praises, honor, and glory goes to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Hakwadash, double honor to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, and salutations, doctrine, pushing this word, sincerity and honesty, and the hopeful elect constantly enduring. Shalom. My name is Korah Allah. Lowlands makes for edifying lesson. Okay. Of course, fair use. This is just showing you the relationship that Venezuela and Russia has built over time. Okay, it says we are in constant touch with Russia. Okay, so that's the president of Venezuela and, of course, the president of Russia, and they stand unified against, of course, America. Okay, so interesting. Trump says Maduro's time is up or coming to an end, when, according to the scriptures, it's America's time that's up. Okay, or should I say, more deeper than just America, but the era or the rulership of Esau, Edom, aka the so-called white man, is up. Okay, so let me get into some scriptures, and Lord willing, this makes for edifying lesson. Okay. This is Job 14:5. It says, "Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass." Okay, so this is going into the wicked, Esau, Edom. Okay, ultimately, the Lord already knows, the day, the moment you born, and the moment you die. It's all up to Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai. Okay, there's no such thing as free will. All right, and that doesn't just go for a person. It also goes for these empires, these rulerships. Right, the Lord raised them up, and then the Lord knows when to bring them out of power. Okay, so Esau, Edom, his rulership, the last rulership, the last leg of this man's rulership, which is America, NATO, and the EU. Okay, which is spiritual Rome, but spiritually it's Rome, but it's the last leg of the Roman Empire. Okay, so it says, "Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass." So it's interesting that Trump is worrying about Venezuela when ultimately everything is set up for America to be put out. Okay, that's why everywhere America turns, they have to face who? Russia. All right, and we know through the scriptures, Russia is the end. Is going to ultimately lead to the downfall of America, because why? They have that nuclear technology. All right, they have nuclear technology. And they're going to lead in the attack on America. This is Ezekiel 38:2. Says, "Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him." Okay, now when you look up the land of Magog, it's in the same region as Russia today. That's how we know through the spirit. Magog is going into Russia. It says, "And say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal." Okay, so the Lord is also against Russia. The Lord is not with Russia. Okay, the same way that the Lord used America to carry out hardcore slavery and punishments upon the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans for breaking the laws, statutes, and commandments, the same way the Lord is going to use Russia to destroy America. All right, for the atrocities and for the wickedness that this place has done to the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans who are the Israelites, and also for refusing to acknowledge Yahweh Yahweh Shai. Right? So it says, and say, thus saith the Lord God, or Yahweh, which is in all caps, behold, I am against thee, O God, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks in thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army. Right? So the Lord's putting that spirit of war on Russia. Okay? Because why? Because things died down after the Cold War, right? That USSR spirit. Okay, but now Russia's being riled up. Okay, so the Lord is forcing Russia to the table. The Lord is forcing Russia to fight America. Okay, that's why although Russia calmed down, that USSR spirit calmed down, one thing that Russia never stopped doing was developing their nuclear technology, developing their military. Okay, and it's all for what? It's all because Russia is going to be leading the charge against America. Right? It says, and I will turn back and put hooks in thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. All right, Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. Okay, so Russia is guarding all of these different countries through their nuclear missiles, man, the nuclear technology. All right, the same reason these nations and countries basically pledged their allegiance to America was when America dropped the what was it, the atomic bombs, the hydrogen bombs. Okay, they dropped the hydrogen bombs on Japan, right? And that basically put these nations in fear. Okay, but the same scientists that America received, so did Russia, which were what, the German scientists. Okay, so they were Russia was also able to step up their military, their hydrogen bombs and nuclear, leading into nuclear bombs, right? And now they have advanced nuclear technology. They have advanced missiles that could easily go past or easily get around America's missile defense system, like the Golden Dome. That's not going to work. Okay, so it says, and be thou a guard unto them. Right, that's why you see Venezuela. Yeah, the Americans, I think it was about 2 or 3 days ago, there was an article out. America came to Venezuela by ships, right, via the Navy, and they had to turn around because Venezuela had Russian artillery, right? They had things like ship busters, anti-ships missiles, and all sorts of defense systems. So America had to turn around and regroup. Okay, but that's because no matter which way they go, they have to face Russia, the bear. Real quick, this is a map of the Soviet Union. It says Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Okay, and if you look to the left, you can see Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. All right, so here it is. Ukraine became free and wanted to join with America, but now Russia came back into that old fighting spirit, came back upon Russia to not allow Ukraine to join with NATO, right? So, hey, this thing's popping off, man. All right, you see that's the hooks being put in the jaw. Okay, that's the Most High turning Russia back to war. This is Revelations 13:1, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, right? And we know that beast when you go into Revelation 17 and 15. Slocky, we know the sea or the waters is talking about peoples and nations, right? This is Revelation 17 and 15. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. Okay, so let's read that again. And Revelation 13:1, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Okay, so that beast is going in to the Roman Empire. And then when you fast forward to today's time, America is a continuation of the Roman Empire. Okay, America, NATO, and the EU is also known as the beast. And I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Okay, so basically let's go into the 7 heads. The 7 heads, which is the Greeks, the Romans, the Spanish, the French, Germanium Minor, Germanium Major, and the British. And the 10 horns going into the EU, okay, which started with 10 states. Slocky was started with 10 countries. Right now the EU has 28. Okay, and also in the ancient time, the Greeks, they also had 10 countries under them, okay, known as vassal states. And upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Right, because these countries, they also ruled with America, okay, but they ruled under America, right? They mainly made deals and pledges, right, and contracts with America, but ultimately their power was given to America to further lead, push America to rule, right? And it says, Revelation 13:2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, right? The beast was onto a leopard because what? Before you had the Romans, which is ultimately the dragon, before you had the Romans, you had Alexander the Great, the Greeks, right? They ruled first, and then the Romans phased them out, which the Romans kept that same structure, but just made it stronger, which is why it's called the Greco-Roman Empire. Okay, it says, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of the bear. Now this is the point that I was really trying to get at, man, because it says his feet were as the feet of a bear, right? Which we know that bear is going into Russia, right? Why the feet? Because the feet represents the end of a thing. The feet is the end, right? Now, if you hit a person, kick a person in the feet, or trick them, the whole body's gonna fall. You take their feet from under them, they're gonna fall. They're gonna tumble. So this empire is gonna tumble by way of Russia, right? Because Russia is a guard onto these nations, and Russia is the main opposition that has the nuclear capability and is able to topple America, right? It says, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, which is the British. Okay, now at one point the British did rule. The British had their own empire. Okay, and not only that, but America came out of came out of the British. That's why when they fought, America fought for their freedom, it was such a big deal. Okay, these nations, even in that act, these nations had fear and respect for America, but that was all through the will of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. And the dragon gave his power and his seat. It says, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Okay, America is structured according to the Roman Empire. Okay, but ultimately these nations make up the dragon, and the dragon basically gave that power to America, all authorities to America. Now, when America dropped the hydrogen bombs on Japan, that basically humbled these nations, okay, to be in league with America. But now we at the end of this thing, okay? We in the time of the bear, Russia. All right. I'm gonna end this here. Lowell's edifying lesson. Once again, I want to say all praise, honor, and glory goes to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai Bashim Hakwadash. Double honesty, apostles, bishops, and elders, great millstone, citation, I can push this word, seeking honesty and hopeful, let constantly enduring. Shalom.